We are live and recording.
Well, good day and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, today is an incredibly special day for all of us, and we are so thankful to be honoring a very special member of our community today. So thank you for pausing for a moment to give the county an opportunity to recognize a true hero among us. With that, I'd like to call forward our Rabbi, President Rabbi Abraham Mintz, to do the invocation. Rabbi?
We gather here, we gather today with our hearts full of gratitude and reverence to honor the incredible Howard Berger as we commence today's meeting. Let us take a moment to reflect on the extraordinary courage, dedication, and sacrifice that have defined Howard's life. May his unwavering commitment to justice, freedom, and humanity inspire us all to strive for a better world. As we approach the joyous Jewish holiday of Purim this week, we are reminded of the resilience and courage of our ancestors who stood against adversity and triumphed with faith and unity. May the spirit of Purim, with its lessons of bravery and celebration, infuse our hearts and guide us in all our endeavors. We thank the Divine for blessing us with individuals like Howard, whose life serves as a beacon of hope and resilience. May our actions and decisions today be guided by the values he has upheld, and may we continue to build a community that honors and cherishes the contributions of all of our veterans. Eternal God, source of all creation, we come before you in prayer, lifting our hearts with profound gratitude as we honor Howard Berger, who fought bravely and selflessly, enduring hardships to protect the freedoms we hold so dear. Bless Howard with continued strength and good health, and may his example of courage, perseverance, and devotion to duty be an enduring inspiration for us all. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as we conduct the business of the beautiful county of Douglas County. May we honor Howard's legacy by striving for justice, compassion, and unity in all that we do. Grant us the strength to carry forward the torch of freedom and work tirelessly for a world where peace and harmony prevail. May we always remember the sacrifices made by our veterans and be ever grateful for their service. I conclude with a Hebrew prayer of Oseh Shalom. In the Hebrew, I'll translate it into English. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimeru, amen. Who makes peace above in the heavens may bring peace and blessings to us all. And let us all say amen. Thank you.
Amen. Rabbi, thank you so much for that. I'd like to acknowledge both of my colleagues at this moment. First, our newest commissioner, Kevin Van Winkle, for driving home this really important initiative that he had to recognize the heroes among us and those in our community that are truly doing great things or have done great things. So, Commissioner, thank you for that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the member of our board who is a veteran, our Vice Chair, Commissioner George Teal. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Van Winkle for some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as I think the entire public and watching audience online can tell, that today isn't the necessarily normal day for us county commissioners. We are joined today by a very special guest who has graced us with his presence. First, big thanks to Mr. Chris Boyer for introducing me to Howard Berger. Very much appreciate that. And then exceptionally, I would say we are just lucky to have 101-year-old Howard Berger, Staff Sergeant, with us today, and have him as a neighbor to Douglas County and here in the state of Colorado. Howard spent most of his life in the service of others. As a soldier in World War II, he enlisted in the Army at the age of 18 as a young Jewish man in Brooklyn after Pearl Harbor in 1940. And in 1942, he joined the Army alongside his brother, who signed up along with him. And then after the war, Howard chose to stay in Europe, serving the troops as a civilian employee for the U.S. Army. He was in charge of the entertainment, or was very much influential in the entertainment branch responsibilities, which really he was kind of it sounds like he was the one that led all the parties and made sure the parties and made sure everyone was happy. He brought truly a lot of joy to the men and women who were serving overseas. And he got to interact with a lot of amazing entertainers who were performing for the troops. I got to visit with him, and he's like, yeah, we got to hang out with Bob Hope. Wow, that's awesome. Orson Welles, and so many others, big notable people that he was able to ensure would be brought to the troops and, again, raise that morale. Among Howard's many military and government civilian awards includes the U.S. Army Adjunct General's White Plume Award for his dedication to the morale and welfare of others. After retirement and life back in the States, I believe he actually stayed in Europe well into the 1990s. Came back to the States with his wife. Howard created the concept of the Over 90 Charitable Gift Annuity Plan, which allows charities to pay significantly higher rates of return on charitable gift annuities. In his personal life, Howard talked to me several times about his beloved wife, Dorothy, who, as a young man, he met her in Austria. They were married for 68 years. She also served the country she was a Marine. Unfortunately, she passed in 2019 and is interned at the Fort Logan National Cemetery, where Howard told me that he intends to join her when God decides it's his time. Howard remains active with the veterans community across Colorado, enjoys listening to music, enjoys meals, chats with large groups of friends, and as I can attest, opening his front door in his house to anyone who wants to come and explore his amazing art collection, his amazing music, and really just listen to his stories. I could listen for hours. So Howard, we are so honored to have you here today. God bless you, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Van Winkle. And, you know, again, it's pretty rare to be able to engage with a centenarian, let alone somebody that served so honorably and so well. No matter where you hail from in Colorado, Douglas County will always be a place where we honor veterans and those that have sacrificed for their country. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Teal for some final comments from our board.
Well, I just had an opportunity to chat with Mr. Berger, and I don't know, man. I think you were like 30 when you enlisted, so that you could lie about your age, because you don't seem 100 years old. You're really got it with it. You got it going. You are definitely here among us and still an active man. And on behalf of all of our brothers and sisters that have come after you and attempted to live up to the service levels that you and your generation established for this country during the great conflict called World War II. I just want to thank you. Thank you for being the example for all of us. Obviously, not only in our time in uniform and our time serving the country, but our time after. You obviously kept at it. You kept giving to the people of America. You kept working for the soldiers the whole time. I'm really glad you're within a stone's throw of us here in Douglas County so that we can honor you today and have you in. And thank you for being here and honoring us with your presence.
Thank you, Vice Chair Teal. And with that, we would like to ask everyone, if they're able, to stand so that we can recognize the veterans and the first responders in the room.
My time, march. Left, march. for the punch. For their punch.
Ready? Halt. Quick. Mark.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. I'd like to have the Board of County Commissioners and Staff Sergeant Berger join us up front for a photograph.
Punch.
Mr. Berger, before we do that, I know you wanted to share some words with us, so maybe we'll put you right here next to this microphone. And we'll walk you right up here. And then we'll have you join us with the rest of the microphones here. You want to just stay right there? Sure. Sure. If everyone would like to be seated for...
Please be seated. Can you hear me back there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very good. I was asked not to give a sermon, but I will tell you about a sermon. And it's about this evangelical preacher who had a congregation of about 770 people, including children. And before he started his sermon, he asked the stage attendant to bring over a chair facing the congregation. And then he asked for a small table with a flat dish and a pitcher of water and a towel. And then he gave a sermon for 1.5 hours nonstop. And after it was over, he asked anybody in the congregation have a current problem. And a number of hands went up, and he noticed Ezra in the rear row waving wildly. So he asked Ezra to come up, and he sits him down on the chair. And he says, Ezra, what is your problem? And Ezra says, my hearing. So the preacher goes over to the table, pours from the pitcher water on the flat plate, puts his left hand in the plate, goes over Ezra's head 3 times, and around his left ear 3 times, mumbling a little prayer. Dries his hands on the towel, puts his right hand in the plate, goes over his head 4 times, and around his right ear 4 times. Dries his hand on the towel, goes to Ezra and says, did that help? And Ezra said, I don't know yet, my hearing's on Tuesday. And I got to tell you one other story, if I may. Since I got the chair over here, I'll go on. And I'm going to tell you a story about Italy after the war. There were 2 classes of Italians, very wealthy and very poor. And how does the poor attain wealth at that time? Well, you can be a Hollywood star, a soccer star, movie star, band leader, or you can play the Lotteria. And Lotteria is lotto in in English. So Anthony goes to the railroad station, and at the railroad station those days, people would gather, they'd buy the newspapers, magazines, chatter, gossip, and all, and they'd buy a ticket for the lottery. And the lottery at that time is worth about $2 million. So Anthony buys 6 numbers, like we all do here, buys 6 numbers, and he goes every week and plays the same numbers. He's now 83 years old. A message comes in from Rome to the railroad station. The ticket seller learns that this Anthony finally won $40 million in the lottery. But if he tells Anthony that he's going to win $40 million, he'll drop dead of a heart attack. So he said, I better get a hold of the son. And he gets a hold of the son. And the son says, my father hears he won $40 million. He'll drop dead right on the spot. So they agreed to have the family doctor talk to Tony. He'll know how to break the news to him. And if anything happens, he'll carry that black medicine bag of his and take care of the situation. So the doctor, a week later, goes up to the hill, visits Tony. They drink in Vino Rosso, which is Italian wine, which was delicious, by the way. And he breaks the news to Tony that the economy in Italy is terrible and you need a lot of money to live. There's strikes going on all the time. And he says, Tony, what if you won the $40 million? And Tony says, Dottori, which is doctor in Italian. He said, Dottori, if I won the $40 million, I'd give you half. And the doctor dropped dead. If you want more, you're going to have to pay me. Okay, all right. Want to take a photo?
Right. Come on.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for giving us the opportunity to recognize this special gentleman, and thank you again to my colleagues. With that, I'd like to open up our business meeting and call to order the Board of County Commissioners business meeting for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Attorney Garcia, do we have certification of today's agenda?
Yes, sir. The county attorney's office reviewed all items on the agenda, and you have appropriate jurisdiction over these matters.
Great. And do any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda today?
No, sir.
Nope.
And I have none either. We have done our ceremonies and proclamations for today, so we'll move on to item 3, which is our consent agenda. I'll ask if there's any member of the public, either in person or online, that has a comment with regard to our consent agenda. Troy, do we have anybody online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comments.
Thank you, Troy. So I will close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move. Oh, hold on. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the requests, all requests at this time on the consent agenda, which is A through AI.
I'll second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries unanimously, 3-0. With that, we'll move on to our regular agenda. Item 4A is a request to apply for $300,000 for a shooting range grant from Colorado Parks and Wildlife with a $100,000 in cash and $500,000 in-kind match. Andy Howe, our Environmental Resources Coordinator, and Zach Humbles, Special Projects Engineer, presenting for staff. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Guess I should stay behind the podium here. There was a misprint in that, so the request is a little bit less than that, but we'll proceed forward. You know us, Andy Howe from Open Space, Zach Humbles from Engineering. The request is County Commissioner's approval to apply for a $300,000 Colorado Parks and Wildlife shooting range grant with a $100,000 cash match from general fund, as well as $100,000 in-kind services from Douglas County. And this would be to construct phase 1 of the Turkey Tracks shooting range. Turkey Tracks is located southeast of West Creek on the Forest Service 343 road complex, right beside Highway 67 and across from Rainbow Falls. A little bit of background. About 9 years ago, the Southern Shooting Partnership was convened. The purpose of this group was to better manage recreational shooting on public lands between Pueblo and Denver. The group included 6 counties, one being Douglas, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, Denver Water, and Colorado Springs Utilities. As part of this process, perhaps about 3 years ago, the Forest Service initiated a decision process called the Integrated Management of Target Shooting on the Pike National Forest. That process and the corresponding NEPA review was concluded in January of this year. And this decision will reduce resource impacts on the Pike National Forest, eliminate a lot of public safety concerns, and it will help alleviate the conflicts between different types of recreational uses and between shooters and homeowners up in those forested areas. Some of the major working elements of this decision are that it closes 2/3 of the Pike National Forest to dispersed shooting over time, and it authorizes the construction of 6 shooting ranges to absorb that pressure displaced by the dispersed shooting closure. One of these ranges is Turkey Tracks. This is the only one located within Douglas County, and it is has been used heavily by dispersed shooters in an informal way for decades. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Zach Humbles to talk about some state perspectives and the Cameo shooting range, which he helped design a few years back.
Howdy, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. Not a new problem to the state and the resource impacts. I'm very thrilled to be a part of being able to help the county lead the state in resolving the demand in the Front Range. I think it really speaks to the county's initiative. Cameo was designed 2012, 2013 timeframe in response to some legislation that was pushed about that time and to support that recreational target shooting population. Cameo has seen a lot of success, but not the resource impact reduction that we had hoped. And I say we as a former CPW guy, right? So while it was a great effort and it continues to be a great site, we still saw resource impacts in our Front Range, right? We still saw those issues that Andy mentioned. So to resolve those issues directly, as a result of 8 years,
Yeah, we're going on 9.
9-year process, speaking with industry and the public, the users, land managers, about you name it, we reached out. Huge credit to Annie and your leadership to engage as much of the constituency as we could We developed a plan to address both the user's needs, to attract those users, to reduce the enforcement burden, as well as provide a public facility that was safe and would reduce the impact that we've seen so well expressed over the years.
So, Commissioners, this is probably not new to you. We were able to successfully gain a $300,000 award with a $100,000 cash match a little over 2 years ago. With that, we've purchased and acquired $400,000 of materials going into the shooting range. So we are starting at with a distinct advantage here of $400,000 ahead. So these materials will be incorporated, assuming we're successful in this grant award, into the first phase of turkey tracks. And our deliverables for this ask are a 100-yard traditional shooting range gallery, rifle range, a 50-yard two-bench gallery, a 35-yard pistol gallery, a long-range precision rifle course, and bringing all facilities, roads, drainage up to standards, and of course, the installation of many of these previously awarded targets, benches, gabions, et cetera. I'm going to flip it back over to Zach here to talk through the specific elements.
So as a part of that outreach and engagement with the community, as well as the impacts that we had seen and land managers had seen and enforcement had reported to us, as well as the Southern Shooting Partnership, one of the features was the long-range precision rifle course. So recreational target shooters that can reach out farther than just 100 or 200 yards, right? What Andy had shown, those photos, and you see on the inset there, that's a life-size silhouette. So preparing our younger hunters to be more successful when they pull their tags and they go out, this will offer them as close an experience as we can. This course is not something that's currently publicly available in Colorado, so it's a very unique opportunity. We'll have integrated in our operations plan or the use in working with the forest with all response agencies to make sure that we're diligent in our preparation and our safety, both for those in context of the site and those users of the site. This is something you'll be very accustomed to. It's a very traditional design. I took criteria and exceeded it. So what you would see in a typical facility, I wanted to do better than that. I wanted to bring the public something that without significant cost burden, we could add just a little bit extra safety, which we did throughout the design. Pistol gallery, same thing, just a shorter traditional gallery, very self-explanatory. A two-bench gallery is a traditional gallery that limits the amount of context or distraction to, so father, son, mother, daughter, a quieter place to learn and teach. If funding allows, and I'm a big advocate for under-promising and over-delivering. So very, very conservative figures. I approach a project aggressively to be both efficient and meet the intent. If we can get funding and resources to go as far as we can through savings that we realize when we construct those initial elements, this is an omnidirectional gallery. So this allows a criteria or 20-foot or greater backstop 360 degrees from a user. So this offers, again, an element that doesn't exist for the public in the Front Range or the state on public lands. So this, again, would be kind of leading on the county's part.
So at this point, we wanted to show you a few of the elements in a little bit bigger scale. This is an example of a reactive steel silhouette target. In this case, it's a life-size mountain goat. And as part of that $400,000 acquisition, we have a myriad of life-size wildlife and then geometric shapes of different sizes. These targets are intended for the long-range precision course and in a future phase, the hunting simulation course. So one of the advantages of using this is that the shooters never have to go down range. The line can stay hot continually. They never have to go cold. Once these targets are hit, you get an immediate, displacement of the target in a gong-sounding ring, and so you get immediate feedback. And we heard so many complaints during the initial phases and the public surveys that I'm tired of punching paper. Well, this solves that. It's much more fun to shoot. It's immediately reactive, and it speeds up the shooting scenario on the line so that we can service more shooters quickly. Another one here, and again, this is Zach's design. This is an example of a ballistically protected firing position, and these would be incorporated into the hunting simulation range and the long-range precision course. So in this case, it's constructed with concrete hot blocks. It could also be constructed out of gabions or GeoWeb. But if you notice the fabric on the inside, that holds a layer of stone aggregate, and that would capture any errant projectiles or spall or fragments of bullets. Yes, and it also provides a lot of acoustic dampening. So, what, 20 decibels worth or so?
Nearly, probably in the 10 range.
Okay, at least 10 decibels of dampening, could be 20. So a lot of advantages to this. And I'll also say that not only is Turkey Tracks in Douglas County, it's very centrally located. And as Zach brought up early on, Cameo was the statewide solution, but that's on the west slope. And it's not practical for front range shooters to go more than once or twice a year. And the majority of the population center is here. Turkey Tracks is centrally located between Pueblo and Fort Collins along that front range corridor. So it's in a unique position for the front range shooters, again, the population center. And secondarily, it'll be a destination site with the complete design that you saw initially. We're building only phase one. We can only build some of the elements for $500,000, but at full build out, this will be a very capable range with a lot of capacity, and it's going to offer amenities that other shooting ranges in Colorado do not offer. It'll be a very desirable course. That concludes our presentation, subject to your questions, Commissioners.
Wonderful presentation, gentlemen. Any questions or comments from the board?
I'll tell you what, I've got probably more answers than any one of you guys have questions, except for Zach and Andy here. Yeah, this has been an 8-year project that I obviously inherited from my predecessor. And this was something that my predecessor, Roger, was very, very passionate about. When we handed off and he kind of gave me his, I guess you just got elected, and we had our sit down, there was only 3 things he wanted to talk about, and this was one of them. And so this is really a passion for Commissioner Partridge. I give a lot of credit to Andy and of course Zach for all the work they put into it. Andy's been a real leader of this project, not only here in Douglas County, guys, but for the entire region of the Southern Shooting Partnership. So tell you what, guys, I'm voting yes. I mean, I know we're going to open it up to public comment, but I'm already advocating and predetermined on this one. This is something we put a lot of work in. It is well worth it. As Zach pointed out, Cameo. Zach, I didn't know that you were involved in Cameo. My daughter, that's kind of her training range now out in Palisade with CPW. That's a great range, but again, it's just not being utilized the way I think it was envisioned. Whereas this is going to be in a great site. It's a great location. It'll get plenty of use. And I can assure you, trying to be an active member of the shooting community, this is something that is very much needed.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. Seeing no additional comment for the board, I'll reserve my comments following citizen comments, and I'll open it up for anybody in the room that may have a citizen comment with regard to this item. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. If you want to just come up to the podium, state your name and where you're from, and then you will have 3 minutes to comment.
Geronimo from Larkspur, Colorado. Just a quick question. I love this concept. How much extra would it be to put one of those distance silhouettes like on a rail, just moving at a grazing speed in the distance? Just curious.
And what we'll do is we'll take all comments, and then we'll have staff respond to any questions that are brought up. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, great presentation. I'm Marianne Giesler. I live in Perry Park. My question is about lead shot. Would lead shot be permitted out here? And if it is it going to lay around on the ground and cause trouble? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any additional citizen comment? Okay. Troy, any citizen comment online with regard to this item?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thanks. So with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
If it's okay, I'd like to address the lady's question, ma'am, about your question about the lead usage. And I might turn to Andy and Zach to give a little more of the engineering and the technical details on this one. But one of our first steps is we do need to do a lead study to establish what the background baseline lead content of the area is, which then, as we go through time, we're going to keep double checking and seeing, well, is there an accumulation of additional lead over time with this shooting? I believe the intent is that lead rounds will be used, but the point will be to continue to monitor that over time. And then, sir, is your question in terms of a moving target? That's a totally cool question that I do not know the answer to. So I turn to the experts, Andy and Zach.
A target that moves is definitely feasible. First things first, though. So if we can demonstrate to the land managers, right, the Forest Service being the primary land manager, that the public and the facility can operate responsibly, safely, then we can propose to continue revisions to the design, which could include elements like that. I love the idea. And to your question, ma'am, I feel very passionate about that subject. I was very briefly involved with EPA-led Superfund remediation. I worked at the Omaha site, and the whole facility is designed to capture and contain any run-on flows in lead potentially contaminated areas, right? So every gallery serves its own catchment. So the same principle that you see in like sand infiltration filters in permanent stormwater quality basins would apply to every gallery impact area. Does that make sense?
It does, but what if it's not, what if the shot isn't captured? And I don't know much about shooting, but what if it lands where it's not captured and it leaches over time?
Excellent question. And I'll just repeat it so everybody can hear it. If the projectile moves or leaves the range, whether it tumbles over the berm or if it's in some acidic soils and it leaches, both are considerations that we took to heart very early, and we referenced the EPA guidance as well as the CDPHE guidance on range operation and management of potentially hazardous materials. So if our primary catchment by confining it in the impact berm doesn't work, the secondary, we would catch it in our quality assurance surveillance plan for our environmental stewardship plan. And therein, we usually use an apparatus like an XRF gun to test contaminant concentrations in the soil. There are active public facilities in the range like Baker Draw on the Pawnee grasslands that have successfully implemented a free and open public facility that uses that plan. I took that plan because I was a district engineer with the Forest Service at that time and built it out to be even more robust, to represent things I had learned in the private sector as well as evolutions in our technology and capability to monitor it now. So I suspect you'll see both monitoring wells, active monitoring on the site, as well as concentration monitoring in the impact and catchments. So it's a very robust plan. And the commissioner's right. The Forest Service right now is undertaking a baseline survey and analysis of the site. And those thresholds, so the EPA and the CDPHE will be involved in our stewardship plan development. So again, I'm really proud to say we can lead as a county in the stewardship of our environment. Thank you.
If I could add just a little bit to that. So again, this site has been used for decades as a dispersed shooting site, a very heavily used, concentrated dispersed site. So there's a bunch of lead in the ground already. And as Zach has had and the commissioner have alluded to, Forest Service has required a baseline survey and, if necessary, remediation. But one of the saving graces of this site is that these are alkaline soils. And lead can dissolve and become mobile in the watershed when it's in an acid environment. In an alkaline environment, it stays solid and bound up. And so one of the treatments is to apply lime or other alkaline substances to the soils and things like that. So we intend for it to stay bound up in the soil in its solid form, and we can even mine that from the berms and different things and get it out of the environment. So smart guys like this are well on top of that, and it will not be a problem at this site.
Thank you both. Commissioner Teal, did you have some additional thoughts around this?
Yeah, just again, I do speak in favor of moving forward with this project. At the same token, before we get on to a motion and other commissioners' discussion on this subject, I do want to recognize, given the way we started our meeting today, both Andy and Zach are I'd say former field grade officers in the United States Army. That applies to Andy, definitely, who was an artillery officer during his time on active duty. But it doesn't apply to Zach, and it doesn't apply to Zach because Zach is still a colonel with the United States Army Corps of Engineers and still serves to this day and is part-time when we let him out. So just wanted to make sure that my board was aware of that after that presentation. Again, I'm very much in favor of moving forward on this. We put in a lot of work. I think the time is now. I'm more than happy to make a motion following any other initial comments by the board.
Please, and then I'll open it up for discussion.
Well, if it does please the board, I do have a motion to approve a request to apply $300,000 shooting range grant, to apply for a $300,000 shooting range grant from Colorado Parks and Wildlife with a $100,000 in cash, and correct me if I did get this wrong, $100,000 in-kind match.
Correct, Commissioner.
And I ask for a second.
And I will second it, and I will also say that I very much appreciate the thought, appreciate the plans that have been put in, or all the thought that has gone into the plans, not just for the site, but for the financing of it, for the grant application, that thorough request. And really, the idea of it for the citizens in Douglas County, those of us who enjoy shooting sports, young and old alike, we don't have that many. This looks like it could be the very best outdoor shooting range, at least in this region, if not the entire state of Colorado. So very excited to see it come to fruition. If anything else, I just wish it was a little closer to home, but for me and my family.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Commissioner Teal. I wholeheartedly agree and fully support this. I'm going on 7 years here, and as long as I've been around, this project has been going forward with a lot of heart and energy, and I just want to thank you both, not only for your service to the county, but for your service to our country. And boy, I know this was near and dear to the late Roger Partridge's heart. I think Commissioner Teal stated it well. And thank you, Commissioner, for your leadership in carrying this through to the finish line. I will be in support. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioners.
With that, we'll move on to item 4B, which is a 2025 private activity bond cap allocation assignment. Melody Dallencourt, Community Programs Coordinator, presenting for staff. Hey, Melody.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Again, good afternoon, Commissioners. It's Melody Dallencourt, representing Community Services. The request before you today is to approve assigning Douglas County's 2025 private activity bond cap to the Douglas County Housing Partnership. The allocation is for $15,344,854. It would be used to finance multifamily housing units for families earning no more than 60% area median income. Private activity bonds are tax-exempt bonds that can be used for housing, manufacturing, infrastructure, or environmental projects. The primary purpose of the private activity bond program is to encourage private investment for these specific purposes. Douglas County receives an annual allocation of private activity bond cap through the Colorado Department of Local Affairs using a population-based formula. State law requires that the county take action regarding the use or reassignment of the private activity bond cap prior to September 15th. The towns of Castle Rock and Parker also receive private activity bond cap allocations. The county partners with Castle Rock and Parker to combine private activity bond cap through an annual assignment to Douglas County Housing Partnership. The 2025 combined private activity bond cap allocation available through Douglas County, Castle Rock, and Parker equals $24,773,264. The Douglas County Housing Partnership has an intergovernmental agreement in place to act as an issuing authority of private activity bond cap allocation. This agreement allows them to issue, manage, and preserve the private activity bond cap assigned to them. We have guest Artie Lell, Deputy Director of Douglas County Housing Partnership, here today, and we are all available to answer any questions that you may have. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Melody. Great presentation. Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up to any member of the community, including Artie, if you'd like to share anything with us.
Artie Lale, Deputy Director, Douglas County Housing Partnership. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. Very briefly, we use the private activity bonds as a vehicle. It's a debt vehicle to build affordable housing, attainable housing. These bonds have many restrictions on them, including the fact that the projects that we undertake must also accrue tax credits through another IRS program to help pay for the development of these projects. These are not considered grants. They are simply bonds that we can then issue to private sector investors who will then buy them at a lower interest rate than we would achieve from like a conventional loan. And that's what helps us to make the projects much more affordable so we can pass that savings on to the end consumer. And those end consumers are the folks that we help every day: teachers, frontline workers, civil servants, and retail workers. So we are very grateful that the county has partnered with us and the other two jurisdictions, Parker and Castle Rock, for the last 13 years. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you so much, Artie, and thank you for all you do. Really appreciate it. Any citizen comment on this item? Okay, any citizen comment online?
Thank you, sir. I have no online comment.
Okay, so with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or a motion.
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I move to approve the 2025 private activity bond cap allocation assignment.
I will second.
So there's a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries 3-0 unanimously. So with that, we'll move on to item 5, which is citizen comment organization comments, if time allows. And I believe we do have some time. It's 2:20. We do normally start up our public hearing at 2:30, so we have some time. At this time, you are welcome to comment about any topic other than those that appeared on today's agenda. This is an opportunity to share your thoughts and ideas with us. If you would, please state your name and where you reside prior to making comments. You will have up to 3 minutes. Any disruptive behavior, such as impeding officials, refusing to leave when asked, or attempting to disrupt the meeting, may result in criminal charges. Commissioner comments, if any, will follow all citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment? Yes, ma'am. Ladies first.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Cindy Applegate. I've been a resident of Larkspur for approximately 25 years. First, I'd like to thank you for prioritizing fire suppression in Douglas County. We do really appreciate, especially those of us in rural areas, the time and money that has been spent on these efforts for Douglas County. Secondly, Douglas County has been an excellent steward of the beautiful land that exists in our area by purchasing and maintaining open space areas such as Sandstone Ranch. We appreciate that as well. Ironically, that makes the proposal to allow camping in whatever term you want to use for that camping today. It's differed a couple of times now. Even more perplexing, because those two things seem to be completely opposite of what you're proposing to do at Sandstone. I don't think I need to list all of the concerns associated with this proposal, as they have been communicated to you numerous times over the past few months. The Larkspur Fire Protection District and Perry Park Metro Board have both highlighted the issues in detail and sent official communications to you. Additionally, the citizens of Douglas County have spoken loudly and clearly that they are against this project. As evidenced by a recent open records request, nearly all comments regarding camping at Sandstone are negative. Please respect the citizens of Douglas County, especially those of us who live in rural areas such as Larkspur, near Sandstone, and stop moving forward with this, and I'm going to use your own words, kooky plan. We would like this kookiness to end, because we do not see this as a safe, inviting project that is good for Douglas County or for the local Larkspur community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you being here. Additional citizen comment. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Sedmak. I'm a 40-year resident of Douglas County and a 24 resident of Perry Park. I believe now you have resolutions condemning the Sandstone Ranch camping proposal from multiple agencies, most notably the Larkspur Fire Department and the Perry Park Metropolitan District. I understand you have received over 900 negative comments regarding the proposal versus only 5 or 6 in favor. In addition, a petition is forthcoming that currently has about 500 signatures standing against the proposal. Commissioner Teal, please stand up for your constituents and work with us against this proposal. In the last business meeting, a fellow Perry Park resident specifically asked why you can't simply abandon this proposal outright. And the response was, thank you for your questions, and don't worry, we're only at the beginning stage. However, you avoided answering the residents' question specifically. With comments suggesting that Perry Park residents are overreacting and hair dryers that pose as much of a wildfire risk as an illegal campfire, demonstrates the disdain for residents of Perry Park, as well as your lack of understanding of wildfires. Most politicians like to believe that they're the smartest people in the room and that their infinite wisdom, they know more than their constituents and know what's best for the constituents, regardless of what their constituents believe is in their own best interest. Please prove me wrong and enter a motion today at this meeting on record to abandon this ill-conceived proposal. If you're not willing to cancel the Sandstone camping resolution today or by the next business meeting, I believe you owe the people in this room a fully transparent explanation as to what or who is preventing the cancellation of this proposal. And I yield the balance of my time. Would love to hear a response. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that comment, and I'm just going to pause to make sure we're saving folks some time here. There is no plan right now in response to our countywide citizen survey to, the 400,000 that we represent. We're just trying to figure out the best way that Coloradans can have access to the open space that they paid for and to the lands that their taxpayer dollars went into. There are many jurisdictions that say people do not belong in open space. I assure you that is not our perspective. If taxpayers spend money, and this particular investment was over $20 million. Listen, nobody cares more about the citizens of Larkspur and Perry Park. That is heaven on earth. And we believe in you, all of you, and we want you to continue to show up and engage. But I'll just speak for myself that the conversation around creating opportunities for taxpayers to enjoy open space will continue from my perspective. I think that's important. But there is no plan associated with camping at this point. We know that's an issue, particularly for young people, Boy Scouts, for most Coloradans that do enjoy recreating in the outdoors. But we would just invite you to stay at the table to help us identify ways, because I think that's a shared value that we all have is really in being able to enjoy the outdoors. So thank you for that, sir.
Yep. So this is also in regards to the camping at Sandstone. I wanted just to bring to light just the last, in the last 20 years with the top 10 wildfires that we've had, and 7 of them were human caused. So we had the Camner Peak, East Troublesome, Pine Gulch, Hayman, Spring Creek, High Park, Missionary Ridge, West Fork, Papose, 416 Last Chance. So of these, there was 12 lives, including firefighters, lost. There was over 2,000 homes and structures lost, 1.1 million acres of land burnt, and over $1.25 billion in firefighting costs and insurance costs. And this is all from our in Colorado Encyclopedia. And so it brought to mind that I just want to read a fictional news article just regarding what could happen if this proposal is passed, if we continue forward and we have another Hayman-level event. So the headline would be, Illegal Open Space Campfire Ignites a Devastating Fire in Larkspur, Claiming Lives and Homes. In a devastating turn of events, an illegal fire that ignited at a Douglas County open space primitive campsite in Larkspur, Colorado during an active fire ban and high winds has resulted in the tragic deaths of 3 firefighters and a dozen residents, including senior citizens that were trapped in the surrounding community, exacerbated by the neighborhood's limited evacuation routes. The inferno, which rapidly spread across more than 140,000 acres, has led to the destruction of 600 homes, leaving countless families displaced. Costs are estimated to be over $500 million for property damage alone. Eyewitnesses and local officials have expressed outrage, asserting that the catastrophe could have been averted had Douglas County Commissioners Abe Layden and George Teal heeded the warning from the community, Larkspur Town Council, and the Larkspur Fire Department regarding the heightened risks of fire in this area. As the community mourns its losses, questions arise around the decision-making process that allows such a disaster to unfold. And really, I'd love for you guys to take the opportunity to drive through our neighborhood because, for one thing, our neighborhood, Perry Park, Sageport, Hidden Forest, Bear Dance, Perry Park East, you're going to find some of the most best manicured property in all of Colorado. And it's not because, it's for the aesthetics, it's because we care about defensible spaces, right? We take this very seriously. And you brought up last time I was here, Commissioner Layden, about the fire pit. I literally was just talking to a neighbor who was telling me he was considering a fire pit in his backyard. He had the fire marshal out, which we all get these beautiful home ignition zone guides that we follow like a Bible. And he decided not to go through with the fire pit because of the risk it presented to the neighborhood. And I just really would hope that maybe we can consider just get this off the website, get this off the proposal agenda, abandon it, and maybe we can come up with some better ideas. And I know you're fond of the Boy Scouts, Commissioner Teal. Maybe even we can bring back the Pathfinder or the tracking badge that got removed, and I can call up some of my Native American friends, and I'll volunteer. I'll be there to do something other than this camping proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Additional citizen comment?
Kim Greer, camping on our open spaces, is it needed? Is it desired? Is it allowed? Your communicated desire was to provide citizens with more opportunities to enjoy their open spaces via camping, believing there are few opportunities for camping and permitting processes are arduous. Indian Creek camping area is 27 minutes from Castle Rock, and permits are not required. Sandstone is 23 minutes and would require permits. Dispersed camping is free almost everywhere in Pike National Forest. There are numerous other areas to camp, ranging from no services to Jellystone. Camping is not needed. Vast majority of public input, your constituents, look at those words up there, communicated since the discovery of this project has been opposed to camping at Sandstone. Protest events have been held. No mention of camping or desire for it in the 2018 public survey conducted as an input for the 2020 management plan. There's no mention in there. Camping is not desired. The conservation easement, granted in exchange for $3.5 million in GOCO funds, protecting the conservation value of the entire ranch in perpetuity, does not address camping as an allowed use, nor does the management plan. In a previous meeting, I relayed that a portion of the easement addressing disturbing vegetation and requirement for mitigation, according to the Leave No Trace guidelines, less than 25 passes of it over a surface results in permanent damage. In addition, further in the conservation easement, it states on page 16, grantor may construct the new trails identified on Exhibit C. Grantor shall not construct or establish any other new trail or relocate any existing or planned trail on the property. The new trail to the camping sites is not in Exhibit C. The Douglas Land Conservancy, as the steward of this land, would need to update this decrease in conservation value. Camping was not part of the original intent of the easement. There is even a no camping symbol on the sign at the entrance to every open space in this county. And regarding the Jefferson County open space properties used for a camping comparison by staff, none allow camping on the conservation easements. The property is conserved in this county with arrangements between landowners and land trusts that steward the easement protection. Will these arrangements now be subject to modification because the next landowner or county commissioner wants to further develop the land?
Thank you, ma'am. We are a little bit past our 2:30, but I'm going to just continue it since you all came here. Let's do a few more comments. Yes, ma'am? Oh, okay, sir. And maybe the first gentleman here who's closer to the podium.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners and the public out there. So my name is Carsten Baumann. I'm a resident of Perry Park since 2019. I'm here today to share two aspects with you regarding the camping initiative at Sandstone Ranch. Number one, the opportunity. Abe Layton, you just mentioned there was a lot of investment made, to acquire this land and then give it back to the public, for use. I don't know if you're familiar. I think it's fantastic that you're planning these activities for this further use. Now, in doing so, I think it can be done in both a responsible and also in a irresponsible way. And I believe that introducing camping is an irresponsible way. We've heard plenty about the hazards and the fires and what could happen over there. And it will all come back to my second point in this one. So let's talk about the responsible way of activating the space and making it accessible to the public and to the citizens of Douglas County and the visitors. At the last COSAC meeting on Thursday last week, we presented a plan of 22 alternative activities, as to how to activate the space without introducing any kind of fire risk. At the last media event on Saturday, I spoke to CBS as well as to Fox, and I floated two ideas of those 22. Imagine that on a Saturday morning, the families of the communities coming together at Sandstone Ranch with their families and their kids, and we have a treasure hunt. A treasure hunt which all of a sudden, can be enjoyed by many of those. Imagine when the stars align with the help of an astronomer, we're going to go out there in the middle of the night, guided, and we have some stargazing. I don't know if you guys have seen the rings of Saturn in life, in real, through a telescope, not in a picture on the internet. I've done this myself a few years ago, and it's amazing, and it's impressive, and it's memorable. If we were to plan those type of activities without the introduction of fire risk, I think that would be really a benefit to the community, to the visitors, and activating the space. And again, the information is available. COSAC has it, 22 activities we identified. The last thing I want to share, and this goes back to what I said earlier, does anybody know what happened last week, Saturday, in Long Island, New York? A fire broke out. Over 600 acres of land burned. And you know what caused the fire? Multiple independent investigators looked at this. It was some folks trying to do s'mores. And then somehow they ignited cardboard. The embers, kind of with high winds, picked up 30 miles wind. The embers spread and the fire started. So if I'm not mistaken, somewhere last year when the idea of introducing camping at Sandstone was announced, one of you made also the comment about, imagine a family from Parker or Castle Rock comes over and do s'mores. I'm not quite sure how s'mores can be done without an open flame. So therefore, it would require some sort of fire. And last weekend's events in New York actually clearly demonstrates the risk associated with that. So I urge you, stop this nonsense right now here, and let's move on activating the space in a different, more responsible way.
Thank you for your thoughts and ideas, sir. We'll do 2 more comments, and then I'd like to ask staff to respond from an open space standpoint, and then I'll open it up to the board. Yes, sir.
I'm Troy Giesler, Perry Park resident, been there 30 years. I'm with most of the people here. I'm against all this, but I went to my insurance company and I asked, what's going to happen? We already found out that there's multiple insurance companies starting to drop people in that area. Anyway, we've still got some pretty solid insurance companies that are holding on, but like Travelers and a few of them are starting to pull out. I then asked, well, what happens if this were approved? And, they can't speak for the company. Most of the agents can't. But what they did say was that more than likely, after it was discovered by the companies, we would eventually get an insurance increase for that risk. And so, we start, it's already expensive to have insurance out there anyway. So none of us need that increase in insurance. Who's going to protect us in the long run? I think the best way, you're looking at a minor number of people that would enjoy that increase of activity on that property, and the increase of risk goes way up. We just had the Means fire last year, and grass fire headed right toward Perry Park. They thought he had it killed, and then it started right back up again and kept on going. So we're definitely afraid of fire out there. So please take that in consideration.
Thank you, sir. Thanks so much. We'll do one more citizen comment, sir. Yep.
Gary Wood, Perry Park, and no surprise, I don't want camping at Sandstone. So, Commissioner Layden, I believe it was you that was recorded as speaking to the kooky idea of bringing families from Parker, to do s'mores on Sandstone. Certainly, last week's events in Long Island tell you this is a bad idea. Long Island's wetter and greener than we are. We're dry, we're windy, we're California. I believe it is disingenuous for this board to tell this group of people there are no plans. There's a proposal. What's the real difference? You guys have it in your minds that you want to do this. You are making plans to do it. You went as far, at least, as to send out 107 invitations to a small portion of your constituents in your district, Mr. Teal. That's disingenuous at the very least. The management of Sandstone book lists a group of activities. And you guys constantly bring up 400,000 residents in this county, and we're blessed to have every last one of them, and I'm glad to be here. Those residents have numerous options, and it's laid out here. You don't have to do camping to open this up to 400,000 people. You've already got a plan here that tells you how to do that. Hiking, 17%, access to Pikes Forest, 11%, educational programs, 10%, horseback riding, 10%, guided tours, and oh, by the way, you probably know, and I recently found out, they are building out an observatory on Sandstone currently. Stargazing is a planned activity out there. People can go and do this. They don't need to camp overnight to watch the stars. Running and biking events, 4-H activities, mountain biking, special events, picnics, cabin rentals, hunting. At least 1% of your constituents want to go out there and kill the beautiful bull elk that are out there, and they probably would taste great, but they didn't ask for camping. It's not in here. Make a resolution today to abandon this dangerous, unwanted, unasked for project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Mr. Duritz.
Thank you, Commissioner. Standards for open space and natural resource staff. I think based on what I've been hearing from the public and everything, they've certainly provided a lot of input so far on where we're at. So far, I have been very clear with the public that at this time, the proposal is a staff proposal. The board has not heard this yet. We continuously try to refine that plan to bring back to the board. I think, at this time, I think we could probably answer about 90% of the questions that the public has. There are some portions of the comments that they've had that we simply just can't address. We don't have good answers for you on that. But staff is ready to come back to the board if directed to do so, to bring back information on what our plans to the board would be in order to do camping. But at this time, this is staff plans that the board has not provided direction on at this time. We do appreciate the comments that have been made from the public regarding other activities. We can certainly bring options to the board on that as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dirts. I'll bring it back to the board for any commissioner comments.
Oh, Mr. Chair, Mr. Dirt, I sure do appreciate that because I've been a commissioner for, I don't know, going on 4 months now, and we've never actually had a proposal. So when you're like, or when I hear there's a petition being gathered right now to stop us, it's like, stop us from what exactly? Because I've been a commissioner for 4 months, and then we have not had a single proposal brought before us. We haven't voted on anything. We haven't put it on our agenda, and I don't think there's a plan to. So when it's on our agenda, that makes sense. But right now, this seems to be largely construed of comments that were made 9 or 10 months ago in a meeting upstairs from a commissioner that says, hey, what about this idea? That was 10 months ago, and nothing's come forward since then. As far as I'm concerned as a commissioner, I haven't seen anything come forward. And if it did, I would then at that point start asking lots of questions, the same way you have as residents. But that proposal has not been brought to me, so I can't ask those questions about something that doesn't exist.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Teal.
Well, very much as my colleague said, I mean, this process was initiated as a staff recommendation. We've allowed staff to work on it. And at this stage of the game, we haven't gotten a full briefing as a board on to what the contents are. Some of the little pieces that I've been able to assess from staff have actually addressed almost every discussion. Sir, you talked about the fictional news article of a fire starting by a camper during a fire ban. Quite frankly, staff is prepared to bring to the board that there would be no camping during a fire ban. So, I mean, I get it, folks. We are listening to you, but we haven't had anything to approve as of yet. I'd be okay hearing from staff, getting the staff proposal as they have it now. I got to tell you, I'm in no hurry to move forward on this, and who knows? Maybe we won't. It would be something that I think we need to, as Kevin said, ask a whole lot of questions once we do get the staff presentation, and work on and see where we're going to go from here. But more specifically, Commissioner, we did talk earlier in the week, and I don't think this has been put out to the public, but we're going to put this on the biannual county survey, citizen survey, and actually, see where things are. Folks, we hear from you, and we've heard from you, and we understand the concern you have being in proximity. I think it's good for us to understand, well, what about the rest of the county and how they feel about it, and then determine where we go. But folks, so many of you are talking like a decision's been made. You want us to take a resolution today. And I'm telling you, no matter what you have heard, things just don't work that way here. We have good staff who put together good plans on many different topics. And quite frankly, we don't make decisions just on a knee-jerk reaction. So as my colleague said, there is no plan that has been presented to the board yet. I'm happy to take up the offer from staff to hear more as we, on what staff has come up with before we even come close to making a decision. And then, of course, folks, everybody's listening to you. I mean, I know a lot of you have really pointed the finger at me today, being your commissioner. Guys, I am aware. I am aware to the point that one of you said, I should come drive through your neighborhood. I can't describe to you the number of times I have gone to your neighborhood because I have friends in your neighborhood. I know your neighborhood well. So, folks, don't, it almost makes me want to say to you, hey, thanks for finally coming to Castle Rock. But we know how unfair that would be. So, folks, it's okay. We are listening. We are taking your input. And I don't know. I do look forward to seeing what staff has put time and effort in and bring it to the board.
Thank you, colleagues. So I would like to just continue this conversation by beginning with thank you. Your comments, good, bad, indifferent, we love that. I really appreciate that. I'd rather have citizens that are passionate about something than those that aren't paying attention and are not involved. So thank you for your involvement. The other piece is, I mean, it's middle of the afternoon, and many of you have responsibilities and families and jobs, and we know it's not easy to get to Castle Rock, so thank you for the sacrifice of time. I'm going to be 100% open, transparent, and honest with you. Families approached me about the lack of ability to be able to, oh, my chair's literally going down as I'm speaking.
You cut it with your heel, brother.
Yeah, I probably did. Families approached me specifically about the lack of camping and recreational opportunities throughout the county and throughout the state. The state has made it very difficult to get out onto Colorado lands without a lot of hassle, a lot of waiting, a lot of fees. And for us, we feel like you all pay too much money already in taxpayer fees, and we want to make it easier for Coloradans to enjoy the lands that they paid for. But Kevin is 100% right. What we do here is we study an issue and we ask our staff to explore that. The reason you're here is because we asked for you to be notified first. So there was no catching off guard. We issued that communication openly to make sure that we knew what your input is. Commissioner Teal is correct. We want to open that up now to the entire county and get feedback and input from everybody in the county, which is our obligation, in terms of what is their perspective on camping. But in terms of the who, what, when, where, why, the location, how that would look, boy, there is a huge delta between where we're at today and any sort of final decision. I do take umbrage with this notion around wildfire risk because as the founder and chairman of the Douglas County Wildfire Action Collaborative, who just met with the Department of the Interior and the Forest Service, I know that the number one risk to our community, our entire county, is the threat of wildfires. That's why we have established an in-kind match so that any one of you or your neighbors can get 50% donated from the county to just mitigate, that really woody biomass that's in and around your land. So if you're land rich and maybe cash deficient, the county will come alongside you to mitigate your land. That's something we've committed to. Again, I really appreciate the woman who came up and mentioned some of the projects that we're working on. Again, we have the only dedicated Helitack team in the state. We put out 33 wildfires this last year, 9 of which were out of the county. We have not had a catastrophic wildfire because that helicopter's right here in Douglas County. So they're here to protect everybody, especially you. I really do appreciate those neighbors that have said, maybe I don't need a fire pit in my backyard, or maybe I could mitigate my land with some county partnership. So the risk is deeply significant. And let's not forget the Marshall Fire. Where that occurred is nothing like Larkspur, very suburban, and it still was absolutely catastrophic. And ma'am, citizen comment has ended. We're going to respond as commissioners to this. But again, we recognize the fact that any small spark in high winds can be absolutely catastrophic. My commitment to you is I will not vote for any plan that puts you at risk of greater wildfire danger, period. If I don't hear back a plan from staff here or anywhere else in the county that doesn't have wildfire mitigation at the very top, I'm gonna be a no. So that is my commitment to you. But that said, I am really hoping you stay at the table, continue to engage with us. And I would caution you that there are those that enjoy manufacturing outrage for political benefit. I don't think that's any one of you, but those individuals exist. Let's continue to engage in a productive, well-informed dialogue to make sure that this isn't about politics, but about doing what's right for our county. Additional commissioner comment? Okay, so with that, I'll close commissioner comment and bring it back to our other business. Any additional business before the board today?
No other business?
Okay. Item 8 is our county manager report, which is included in the packet. Anything from our county manager? Okay. So with that, I will adjourn. I'm not seeing the date of our next meeting, Troy, which is normally included in our packet if we want to announce that as staff. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes, sir. The next meeting would be March 25th at 1:30 p.m.
Perfect. Thank you. We are adjourned.